All right, today we're jumping into one of the most fundamental things our bodies do, storing energy as fat. You might be surprised to find out it's a really elegant system, and we're going to break down exactly how it all works. Let's get right into it.
So we've all been there, right? You're eating a donut, and you just have to wonder, how does this actually become, that? How does your body take that bite of food and so cleverly tuck it away for a rainy day? Well, it's not magic, it's an absolutely fascinating biological journey.
Okay, so the star of our show today is this molecule right here, the triglyceride. Seriously, think of it as the body's ultimate Tupperware. When you've got extra fuel floating around, your body doesn't just let it cause chaos. Nope, it neatly packs it away into these triglyceride molecules, mostly in your fat cells, all ready to go for when you need that energy later.
So what's inside this biological Tupperware? You might think it's some crazy, complicated structure, but the basic blueprint, it's actually incredibly simple.
That's really it. I'm not kidding. At its heart, a triglyceride has just two main components. You've got this glycerol backbone, and then hanging off of it are three fatty acid tails. This simple, elegant design is the whole secret to its amazing ability to store so much energy.
Now, this is where your body starts to show off a little. See, it doesn't just have one single factory for building fat. It's got several, and each one is specialized for a different job, depending on where it is and what raw materials it has to work with.
These three locations are our main triglyceride factories. Your intestines, they're on the front lines, dealing with the fats you've literally just eaten. Your liver is like a central processing plant, handling all sorts of nutrients from your blood. And then you have your fat cells, your adipose tissue, which are the main long-term storage warehouses. Each one has its own unique way of getting the job done.
This chart gives us a fantastic snapshot of what's going on. Let's just walk through it real quick. So, first up, in the liver, you've got the G3P pathway, which uses glycerol as its main building material. Next, in your fat cells, and the liver too, there's something called the DHAP pathway. Now, DHAP is a mouthful. It's dihydroxyacetone phosphate. But all you need to know is that this pathway cleverly pulls a building block straight from sugar metabolism. And finally, down in the intestines, the monoacylglycerol pathway is basically like a reassembly line. It takes the broken down fats from your food, these things called MAGs, and puts them back together into triglycerides. This incredible flexibility is a huge evolutionary win. It means we can save energy no matter what we eat.
And that right there is the key takeaway: flexibility. It doesn't matter if the extra energy is from carbs or from fats, your body is ready to store it. It's a masterclass in survival.
But, this amazing flexibility brings up a really interesting question. What happens when the usual building blocks just aren't there? Just think about that for a second. We just learned that fat cells need glucose to build that glycerol backbone, right? But what happens when you're fasting or in a state of starvation? Glucose is super scarce. So, how on earth can your fat cells store any fatty acids at all? You'd think the factory would just have to shut down.
You'd think the whole system would just grind to a halt. But nope. Our bodies are way too smart for that. There is an absolutely ingenious backup plan.
And that backup plan is called Glyceroneogenesis. You can think of it as a brilliant biological hack. Your fat cells basically borrow a piece of the machinery that the liver uses to make glucose, and they use it to create their own glycerol backbone from other stuff, like pyruvate, even when there's no sugar in sight. It's just this powerful reminder that our bodies will always prioritize being able to store energy for later.
Okay, to coordinate all of this activity, all these different pathways, you need a manager. And in the world of making fat, one of the most important managers around is a protein that comes from the Lipin-1 gene.
This one protein, Lipin-1, is a major player, and it is a true multitasker. It has two completely different but equally critical jobs to do.
This is what is so cool about Lipin-1. It's got this dual identity. On one hand, it's a worker right there on the assembly line, physically helping to build the triglyceride. But on the other hand, it puts on a suit, walks into the head office, the cell's nucleus, and acts as the manager, directing the whole operation by turning genes on and off.
And as a manager, its job description is huge. I mean, take a look. It helps young fat cells mature. It can actually activate genes for fat burning, not just fat storage. And it coordinates with other key regulators in the cell, like PPAR-alpha, which is another one of these master switches for fat metabolism. Lipin-1 is a true multitasking marvel, perfectly balancing this intricate dance between storing energy and using it.
So why did we go so deep on one little protein? Well, because understanding the managers of fat storage is the key to fixing the system when it goes wrong.
And this is the payoff. This is where all that biochemistry becomes actual medicine. This is how we can start to tackle a massive problem like fatty liver disease.
So let's zoom in on the liver. The very last step in making a triglyceride, the one that puts the final piece on the puzzle, is done by an enzyme called DHA2. And this guy is really important because its specialty is handling freshly made fatty acids, which are often the very ones that build up and cause a fatty liver.
The logic here is just beautifully simple. If the problem is too much fat being made in the liver, and DGA2 is the enzyme that performs the final step, well, what if you could just block that one enzyme? It's like turning down the faucet on fat production, reducing the overload without shutting down a bunch of other essential things in the cell.
And this isn't just some theory in a lab. This is real medicine, right now. A drug called Erpogatt, which is a DGAT2 inhibitor, has actually been given fast-track status by the FDA. It's for treating MASH, that stands for Metabolic Dysfunction-Associated Steatohepatitis, which is a really serious form of fatty liver disease. This is a perfect real-world example of how understanding these deep, fundamental pathways leads directly to treatments that can change people's lives.
And that leaves us with a really powerful final thought. We've gone from a simple molecule to this complex web of pathways, managers, and now super-targeted medicines. As we get even better at tinkering with this machinery, with this kind of precision, it opens up a whole new frontier for treating metabolic disease. The question isn't if we can control these pathways anymore, it's how we can best use that incredible power. What's next?